Have you ever noticed that there are women whose very presence seems to make the world fall silent? They don't speak louder than others, they don't wear revealing clothes, and they don't try to be the center of attention. But when they walk into a room, something subtly shifts. The air feels heavier, conversations quiet down, and the looks men give them lose their usual judgment and are filled with something different, something deeper. It's not admiration for fleeting beauty, it's a silent acknowledgement. It is respect. On the other hand, there are women who spend their whole lives trying to be perfect, agreeable, and understanding, never saying no. They pour all their energy, all their time, all their soul into keeping the peace, earning love, and being good. But in return, all they get is routine, condescension, and sometimes even outright neglect. Their kindness is taken for granted, and their willingness to help is seen as an obligation. And the more they try, the more invisible they become, fading into the needs of others, losing the outlines of their own identity until all that's left is a faint shadow, just a role to fill. What is the secret behind this cruel paradox? Why does one woman inspire awe without even trying, while another, who has sacrificed everything for a relationship, goes unnoticed? Why does one woman shine effortlessly, while another burns herself out just trying to spark that same light? This isn't about magic, looks, or luck. Behind this is a deep psychological law that Carl Gustav Jung spent his whole life studying, exploring the mysteries of the human soul. He discovered that a woman's true allure doesn't come from wanting to please, but from her ability to simply be. To be herself, to be whole. It's within this wholeness that the invisible crown is hidden, a crown that a man senses not with his mind, but with his whole being, his unconscious. Jung taught that the queen archetype lives within every woman. This isn't about arrogance, whims, or a hunger for power. It's about inner dignity, an awareness of her own self-worth, and the unshakable boundaries of her kingdom, her soul. The queen does not have to prove her right to the throne, she simply sits on it. She doesn't look for validation of her importance, she is the source of it herself. And when a woman begins to speak from this state, her words are no longer just a collection of sounds. They become a force. They change reality. They make a man pause, stop, and see before him not just a woman, but a personality, a queen. Today, we're not going to talk about manipulations or tricks. We will talk about returning to yourself, about the sacred journey home. I will share with you 7 phrases that are more than just words, they are keys that unlock the door to your inner kingdom. When you start to speak them, not from your mind, but from the depths of your soul, from your very core, you will see how the world around you changes. Men will begin not just to listen to you, but to truly hear you. Not just to look, but to truly see. To see the queen you have always been, but were afraid to admit to yourself. Are you ready to stop being convenient and start being respected? Are you ready to wear your invisible crown, forged not from gold, but from self-respect? Then let's begin. Asterisk, asterisk, phrase 1, I need time to process this. Asterisk, asterisk. In a world that demands instant reactions, immediate answers, and constant engagement, taking a pause becomes an act of defiance, an act of power. When, in the middle of an argument, an important conversation, or in response to a demanding, "Well, what have you decided?" a woman calmly says, without a trace of irritation or fear, "I need time to process this," she is doing something revolutionary. She refuses to react and chooses to act. She turns away from the noise of the outside world and immerses herself in the silence of her inner world. On the surface, this is just a request for more time. But from a Jungian psychological perspective, it is a declaration of inner independence. Jung said that as long as the unconscious controls us, we call it fate. An impulsive reaction is exactly the power of the unconscious at work, the power of our unresolved complexes, fears, and ingrained patterns. A woman who is always afraid of disappointing others will immediately give the answer that's expected of her. A woman who fears conflict will instantly agree. She reacts from her persona, wearing the good girl mask. But the queen understands the value of silence. She knows that wise decisions are born not in chaos, but in calm. This phrase tells a man, my inner world matters enough for me to give it my attention. My decision won't be dictated by your impatience or by my fears. It will be born in the quiet of my own kingdom. This is an act of the deepest self-respect. You are showing that you're not willing to make decisions under pressure, because your emotional balance is your top priority. The pause you take isn't emptiness, it's a sacred space, an inner council chamber where you retreat to listen to the most important voice of all, the voice of your soul. Jung wrote extensively about the process of individuation, the journey to discovering oneself, one's true self. And this journey is impossible without the ability to look inward, to have a conversation with oneself. By saying, I need time, a woman is essentially saying, I am now going to consult with myself. A man picks up on this at an unconscious level. He doesn't see a confused girl who's easily rattled, but rather a mature person with her own inner core, her own throne. He might feel a twinge of impatience, but that will soon be replaced by something else, curiosity, and then respect. Respect for the depth he wasn't allowed to see in a rush. He realizes that when her answer comes, it will have real significance. This phrase breaks the usual pattern where the man pushes and the woman gives in. It creates a healthy distance, a space where real value is formed. Anything that isn't instantly available automatically becomes more desirable. He starts to realize that her yes or no won't be impulsive. They'll be thought out, and that means her word can be trusted. Her decision will be final. This makes him slow down and wonder, what's going on in her world while she's silent? He starts to see her not as an object that has to respond, but as a person with a deep and private inner life. Stop being afraid of pauses. A pause isn't emptiness, it's fullness. It's the space where you listen to your intuition, what Jung called the voice of the anima, the female soul. When you say, I need time, you're not pushing the man away. You're inviting him to respect your inner world. And he, pausing for a moment, suddenly realizes that in front of him isn't an open book to be read in one evening, but a mysterious manuscript that needs a special approach. And this intrigues him, fascinates him, and makes him see you not just as a partner, but as a queen whose decisions truly matter. Asterisk, asterisk. Phrase 2. I appreciate your opinion, but my decision will be different. Asterisk, asterisk. This is one of the most powerful and healing phrases a woman can say. There's no aggression, no belittling, no challenge in it. But it carries an unshakable strength. It draws a clear, bright line between two individuals, two worlds. I appreciate your opinion. With these words, you show respect for the man. You show that you hear him, that his words matter to you. You're not starting a fight, not trying to prove him wrong. You recognize his right to his own perspective. This is the position of a mature, wise ruler who listens to her advisors with dignity and attention. But the second part, but my decision will be different, is the moment the queen takes her throne. It is the declaration of her sovereignty. This phrase says, I have heard you. I have taken it into account. But the ultimate authority over my life, my choices, and my destiny is mine alone. This is not an act of selfishness. It is an act of taking responsibility for one's own soul. Jung believed that healthy relationships are only possible between two separate, whole individuals. The problem in many couples is fusion, what Jung called participation mystique, a mystical participation where personal boundaries become blurred. In such a fusion, there is no respect, because you can only respect something that is separate from you. A woman who is afraid to say this phrase lives in such a fusion. She is afraid that expressing her own opinion will destroy the connection and drive the man away. She is afraid of being called difficult, inconvenient, or selfish, and she sacrifices her individuality for the illusion of harmony, not realizing that harmony without truth is a lie. But by saying, "My decision will be different," a woman cuts this unhealthy umbilical cord. She performs an act of psychological separation, and it is at this very moment that a man is forced to see her not as an extension of himself, not as a convenient accessory to his life, but as a separate universe with its own laws, its own values, its own path. And this causes a shock. And after the shock comes respect. He realizes that she cannot be controlled. She cannot be persuaded through manipulation or pressure. She can only be accepted as she is, with her own opinions and the right to make her own decisions. This phrase embodies what Jung called the animus, a woman's inner masculine principle. It shows that a woman is capable not only of feeling, anima, but also of making decisions, taking action, and accepting responsibility, animus. A woman in whom both of these principles are harmoniously developed is seen as an incredibly whole and strong personality. A man may not agree with her decision. He might be disappointed, but he will never forget the feeling he experienced, the feeling of encountering true strength. Not a rough or loud strength, but one that is quiet, confident, and unshakable. He realizes that her self-respect matters more to her than his approval. And this is the mark of a true queen: she does not rebel. She reigns. She reigns over her own world. Her decision is her North Star, and she will navigate by its light, even if every other ship is sailing in a different direction. And the man, seeing this, either leaves because he is not ready to be with an equal, or he stays to become a worthy king beside such a queen. Asterisk, asterisk, phrase 3, I am responsible for my own happiness. Asterisk, asterisk. This phrase is a manifesto of emotional maturity. It marks the end of all games, all manipulations, all subconscious reproaches and expectations. In a culture that teaches us that happiness is something someone else must give us, a man, a family, society, taking this responsibility upon oneself is almost a heroic act. It is an act of liberation, both for herself and for her partner. When a woman says, I am responsible for my own happiness, she frees the man from an impossible mission. She lifts a heavy burden from him, the burden of being the source of her good mood, her fulfillment, her joy. Most men subconsciously feel this pressure and run from it because they intuitively understand that it's impossible to make another person happy. It's like trying to breathe for someone else. It suffocates both. From a Jungian psychological perspective, shifting the responsibility for one's happiness onto another is a classic projection. We project our own inner deficit, our own emptiness, onto our partner. We expect him to fill the hole in our soul that we ourselves cannot or will not fill. We project onto him the archetype of the Savior, the Prince, the God who will come and solve all our problems. Jung said that projections always lead to disappointment because no real person can live up to the idealized image we project onto them. Sooner or later, the projection shatters and we see an ordinary person before us, not a deity, which leads to resentment and blame. By saying this phrase, a woman performs the act of withdrawing the projection. She says, my happiness is my work. My joy is my task. My fullness is my journey. She declares that her inner state does not depend on whether he called or not, whether he gave her flowers, or whether he paid her a compliment. Her happiness is a foundation she builds herself, brick by brick, from her hobbies, her friends, her work, and her spiritual growth. A relationship is a beautiful, shining tower on this foundation, but not the foundation itself. If the tower collapses, the foundation will remain. A man hearing this experiences two feelings. The first is immense relief. An impossible weight falls from his shoulders. He no longer has to walk on the minefield of her moods, trying to guess what will make her happy today. The second feeling is the deepest respect mixed with admiration. He sees before him not a needy girl, as Jung would say, seeking salvation in a relationship, but a strong, self-sufficient woman, a queen who has her own kingdom full of treasures, and she's not waiting for someone to come and give her access to them. She becomes for him not a problem to be solved, but a mystery to be experienced. Her happiness is no longer his responsibility, but rather her gift, which she may choose to share if she wishes. The relationship stops being a transaction, you give me happiness, I give you love, and instead becomes a free union of two self-sufficient worlds. This idea says, I am with you not because you make me happy, but because I choose to share my happiness with you. And that difference is enormous. It changes the entire dynamic. A man realizes that she cannot be kept by promises of a happy future. She can only be intrigued by his own equally complete and fulfilled world. He starts to see her not just as a woman, but as a source of light, strength, and joy. And he wants to be near this source not to take from it, but to bask in its glow. This is respect at its deepest level. Asterisk, asterisk, phrase 4, I trust my feelings. Asterisk, asterisk. In a rational, patriarchal world, women's feelings are often dismissed. They're called hysteria, whims, hormones. From childhood, a woman is taught not to trust herself, but to look for external validation, truth and logic in other people's opinions, in accepted norms. Don't make things up. You're imagining it. You're too sensitive. These phrases get imprinted on the subconscious, making a woman ignore the most accurate compass she has, her intuition. She starts to doubt the reality of her own feelings, and this inner conflict robs her of her power. Carl Jung considered intuition and feelings to be among the most important psychic functions, especially well-developed in women. The anima. This isn't something mystical, but rather the unconscious mind's ability to instantly process a huge amount of information, nonverbal signals, tone of voice, energy, and deliver a finished result in the form of a feeling. Something is wrong. This person can't be trusted. I need to go this way. It's the wisdom of the body, the wisdom of the soul, which speaks not in words, but in sensations. A knot in the stomach, a chill down the spine, a sudden feeling of joy or anxiety. When a woman looks a man calmly in the eye and says, I trust my feelings, she takes back her innate power. She refuses to play by the rules of logic, of logos. In a realm governed by the soul, by eros. She says, my inner world has a right to exist. My sensations are valid data. I am not obligated to prove or explain to you what I simply know. My reality is just as valid as yours. This is disarming. A man who is used to dealing with facts and arguments is faced with something that can't be argued against. He can't say, prove that you feel this. He can either accept it or reject it. And at that moment, he sees in front of him not someone trying to convince him, but someone who has already convinced herself. There is no doubt in her. There is only knowing. This knowing might be irrational, but it is unshakable. This phrase is an integration of the shadow. For many women who are too good, their intuition, their unexplained negative premonitions, are part of the shadow, something they are afraid to acknowledge in themselves. They suppress these feelings to seem convenient, logical, and not dramatic. But as Jung taught, a repressed shadow does not disappear. It starts to control us from within, leading to bad decisions and toxic relationships. By acknowledging her feelings, a woman integrates her shadow. She says, "Yes, I can feel something irrational. Yes, my premonitions might be unpleasant, but this is a part of me, and I trust this part." A man sees that she is connected to something deeper than everyday life. He sees in her a bearer of ancient, primal wisdom. He might call it women's intuition, but his tone will carry not mockery, but awe. He understands that she can't be deceived by pretty words or logical arguments if her soul senses a lie. Her internal lie detector is switched on and working. This inspires immense respect for her perceptiveness, for her depth. He understands that to be with her, he must be genuine. Any mask, any lie will be uncovered. To him, she becomes not just a woman, but a seer, someone who knows, a queen who sees the essence of things, not just their surface. And he is either intimidated by this transparency or left in awe, striving to become someone whose intentions are pure, to be worthy of being in her presence. Asterisk, asterisk, phrase 5, this does not align with my values. Asterisk, asterisk. If the phrase, this isn't for me, sets personal boundaries of comfort, then the phrase, this does not align with my values, builds the walls of an unshakable fortress. This marks a shift from the level of psychology to the level of the spirit. Values are what form the core of our personality, our inner code of honor, what Jung would call a manifestation of the self. They are not something to be debated or changed to please someone. They are what we stand on. They are the skeleton of our soul. When a woman says these words in response to a questionable proposal, an ambiguous joke, a call to compromise her conscience, or to participate in something that repels her, she draws a line in the sand, a line that cannot be crossed. She doesn't say, "You are bad." She doesn't judge. She simply states a fact. Our worlds do not intersect at this point. My kingdom operates under different laws. Her no in this case is not a rejection, but an affirmation of her own world. This phrase has incredible power because it appeals not to emotions, but to something fundamental. It cannot be argued with. One can argue about tastes, desires, moods. But arguing with a person's values is pointless. It's like arguing with a mountain. Values are the inner council of elders of the soul, and their decisions are not subject to appeal. A woman who speaks this way demonstrates that she lives not only for pleasure or comfort, but for meaning. Now, Jung wrote about the archetype of the wise old woman, or the queen mother, the part of the female psyche that is the guardian of eternal laws, morality, and spirituality. By saying, "This does not align with my values," a woman speaks with the voice of this archetype. Gone is the wavering girl who's afraid of seeming like a prude or too righteous. Within her is an unshakable confidence in her own truth. There is no tremor in her voice, because she speaks not for herself, but on behalf of something greater than herself. A man, hearing this, freezes. He is faced with something more than just a woman. He is faced with a principle. He realizes that before him is a person who cannot be bought, seduced, or broken. She has an inner core of Damascus steel. She can be soft, tender, and loving, but when it comes to her values, she becomes indestructible. This quality inspires more than just respect. It inspires reverence. He sees that her beauty is not just on the outside. Her true beauty lies in her moral integrity, in her loyalty to herself. He understands that such a woman will never betray, neither herself, nor him, if he shares her values. She is as dependable as a rock. This phrase filters out unworthy men like a sieve. Anyone looking for easy fun and compromise will bounce off this phrase like hitting a wall. But the man who seeks in a woman not just a lover, but a life partner, a friend, an equal, will see a treasure in her. He will see in her a queen whose word is law, whose principles are unbreakable. And he will want to become a king worthy of ruling alongside her in a kingdom built on shared high values. He will respect her not for what she gives him, but for who she is. And that is the most solid foundation for love. Asterisk, asterisk, phrase 6, I will not participate in this. Asterisk, asterisk. This phrase is a powerful energetic shield. It is the essence of mindfulness and self-respect. It applies not only to relationships with men, but to all areas of life. This can be anything. Gossip, intrigue, a pointless argument, a toxic family fight, a humiliating situation, or someone else's drama she's being dragged into. Most people, especially good women, are habitually drawn into others' destructive games out of a desire to fit in, a fear of offending, or a false sense of responsibility. They become a shoulder to cry on for complainers, a referee in other people's conflicts, an absorber of others' negativity. They believe that by participating, they are showing empathy, but in reality, they are only fueling the drama with their energy, and in the end, they feel drained and tainted. When a woman calmly and firmly says, I will not participate in this, she is practicing energetic hygiene. She refuses to be a dumping ground for others' projections and negative emotions. She says, this is not my war. This is not my drama. My energy is too precious to waste on destruction. I choose creation. She becomes not a participant, but a conscious observer. Jung introduced the concept of the collective unconscious, as well as the collective shadow. Gossip, intrigue, mass hysteria, these are all manifestations of the collective shadow. People unconsciously unload their tension, aggression, and fears into these things. A woman who refuses to take part in this essentially steps out from under the influence of the collective shadow. She preserves her individuality and the purity of her consciousness. She becomes an island of calm in an ocean of chaos. Her refusal is not arrogance, but wisdom. She understands that the best way to stop a fire is not to pour gasoline on it. A man observing this sees something astounding. He sees a woman who is immune to social poison. She doesn't give in to herd mentality. She has an internal filter that separates the wheat from the chaff. She doesn't judge the people involved in the drama. She simply doesn't enter their space. This is the stance not of a victim, but of an observer, the stance of a queen who watches the commotion of her subjects from the walls of her castle, but does not descend to the marketplace to join the brawl. This phrase demonstrates the highest level of mindfulness. The woman doesn't just react. She sees the whole situation from above, understands its destructive nature, and makes a conscious choice to stay out of it. This quality is especially valuable in long-term relationships. A man begins to understand that this woman is his safe harbor. With her, he himself is cleansed of the hustle and chaos of the outside world. She will not nag him for his mistakes, will not drag him into pointless arguments, will not drive him crazy over trifles. Her presence is calming. Her silent refusal to participate in drama speaks louder than any words. Peace reigns in my world. If you wish to enter, leave your weapons at the door. This inspires boundless respect and trust. He realizes that he has found not just a woman, but a keeper of the hearth in the highest, most spiritual sense of the word. She protects not a house, but a space of purity and peace. and he will be drawn to that space to rest his soul. He will respect her for her wisdom, for her ability to rise above the fray. He will see in her the queen of peace in his own personal inner world. Asterisk, asterisk, phrase 7, I choose myself. Asterisk, asterisk, this is the final phrase. These are not just words. This is the culmination of the entire journey. This is the point at which a woman, after going through doubts, fears, societal pressure, and the pain of betraying herself, finally takes the ultimate oath of loyalty to her own soul. It is a sacred vow made not to someone else, but to her deepest, truest self. The phrase, I choose myself, may be spoken at the most critical moment, when one has to choose between a destructive relationship and being alone, between a toxic job and the unknown, between the expectations of loved ones and one's own path. It is the moment of truth when all the masks are off and the illusions have fallen away. And in this emptiness, a choice must be made. Now, to many people, this sounds like selfishness. We were taught to choose anyone, children, a husband, parents, duty, but never ourselves. Choosing oneself was considered shameful. But Carl Jung argued that a person's greatest task is individuation, becoming oneself. And this process is impossible without consciously choosing your true self, your own I. This is not selfishness. It is fulfilling your sacred duty to your soul. When a woman says, I choose myself, she is not saying, I am against you. She is saying, I am for myself. She acknowledges that her life, her mental health, and her soul are her highest value and her primary responsibility. She stops being a rescuer, a victim, or a martyr. She becomes the author of her own life. This is the moment she takes the pen from the hands of fate and begins to write her own story. This phrase is the complete and final integration of all parts of the personality. She integrates the shadow, that selfish part that has the right to its own desires and needs. She sheds the persona, the good girl mask that pleases everyone. She connects with her true self, her divine center, her inner ruler. A man who witnesses this choice sees before him not just a woman, but a force of nature, like the birth of a star, like a volcanic eruption. He sees an act of creation, the creation of a new personality born from the ashes of old compromises. He may be the one she is leaving as she says these words, and it will hurt him. But even through the pain, he will feel the superhuman strength of this moment. He will understand that he did not lose to another woman. He lost to her newfound soul, and he will respect her for this choice for the rest of his life. If, however, he is the one who supports her in this choice, he will see his woman transform into a goddess. She ceases to be dependent, needy, or controlling. She becomes free. And her love, if she chooses to give it to him, will no longer be a love born of need, but a love that is a gift, pure, unconditional, and incredibly precious. He understands that by his side is not a half, but an entire universe that has chosen him as its companion. This is the highest form of recognition. This phrase marks the moment when a woman puts on her crown, not as a decoration, but as a symbol of her power over her own life. She is no longer a princess waiting to be rescued. She is a reigning queen. She has chosen herself, and the whole world, holding its breath, chooses her in return. A man freezes because, instinctively, he understands he is witnessing a coronation. And the image of this woman, strong, free, and having chosen herself, will forever remain in his heart as the standard of true greatness. These 7 phrases are not magic spells to be memorized and repeated. They are milestones on the journey back home to oneself. They are markers of a profound inner transformation that happens when a woman stops seeking approval from the outside and finds support within herself. These are 7 steps from the persona to the true self. The path to the queen archetype is the journey from "what will they think of me" to "what do I truly feel?" From the fear of losing to the courage to choose, from the desire to be convenient to the decision to be authentic, it is an alchemical process where the lead of fear and dependence is transformed into the gold of dignity and freedom. Carl Jung taught that we cannot change anything until we accept it. These phrases are acts of acceptance, acceptance of your boundaries, your decisions, your happiness, your feelings, your values, and ultimately, yourself. When you start living from this place, you'll notice how the energy around you shifts. You won't have to fight for respect anymore. It will come naturally as a result of your own self-respect. You won't have to cling to a man anymore. He will naturally be drawn to the space of your wholeness and strength, just like a traveler is drawn to a fire on a cold night. Now, your invisible crown is not about pride. It is a calm awareness of your divine nature. It is forged in the fire of your struggles and polished by the tears of your revelations. Your inner kingdom is not selfishness. It is the sacred space of your soul, which you are duty-bound to protect. Stop being a supplicant in the temple of other people's lives. Become the priestess of your own life, and then any man who meets you will be frozen in awe, because he will see not just a beautiful woman. He will see a reflection of his own lost soul. He will see an entire world. He will see a queen, and the only thing he will want is to be worthy of standing beside her. Now, start this journey today, not for anyone else. For yourself. And let your presence be your main statement, and your silence your ultimate proof. You are a queen, and it's time to claim your throne.